Hey, Composite Gloves here. This is the 7th video in the Harmless from the Ground Up tutorial series, and today we're going to be talking about the Unison section. What is Unison? Well, Unison, first let's play a note. So we have a note here, and you can see it consists of our fundamental and all these extra frequencies that we call harmonics or partials, and this is all old news. But what this Unison does, and it's really cool, is it will clone it and play it back. And we can make changes to that playback according to our pan, phase, and pitch. And you have this extra one right here that actually has to do with the phaser. And so let's really quick just talk about what these things are. So right now we have our note, right? And if we move it over just a little bit, we change the pitch a little bit, we'll hear the other notes coming in. And if you think about a choir sings, and not every single person is exactly on the note. Usually there's people just slightly off, and as a result you get a very choiry sounding effect. So if we were to turn a unison up to 2, you actually won't hear anything because there is no, at least you won't hear any difference because there's no pitch difference. So we have to change the pitch first in order to hear our effects start to take place. And immediately you see that our second note is beginning to change and interact with our first, especially in terms of pitch. It sort of looks like phase reaction is going on. Well, what's happening is we're getting phase cancellation is what that is. And if we turn the pitch up a lot, that second voice will have, so what's happening is it's cloning our voice and it's changing the pitch. And the way it's doing this is it's taking all these partials, because remember, this is an additive process, and it is spreading them out across like a graph. So it's telling these partials to change, and you happen to see the change of behavior that's going on. That's what these different modes are. They're different ways to spread out these harmonics, and specifically pan different harmonics differently, and pan the pitch differently, or change the pitch differently, and change the phase of each one differently. So there's some really interesting options here. So if we play some notes and turn our pitch way up, you see we actually have 2 peaks now because it's that far off from our original note. But that is what the pan does, and hopefully you get a concept of what it's doing right now. And what's really remarkable about this process is if we turn it up to 9, which is a lot, this could consume a lot of CPU. But it's still only one voice. That's what like blows my mind. If you were to do this on something like a Massive or FM8, it would immediately start wrapping up your voice count like to like 9, 10. So every time you hit a note, your polyphony setting would have to change, because that one note would count for 9 voices. So you'd have to have a polyphony setting at, like, if you wanted to play 4 notes, it'd have to be 36 in order for you to be able to play chords, which is like ridiculous. Now, amongst other things, we have our panning, which, remember, you have to change your pitch a little bit in order to hear this take effect. So if you turn it off, panning doesn't do anything. So you have to turn your pitch up so you can hear the variation between the voices. And if you move our panning up and down now, you hear we get a stereo spread. And on my graph, the green is, I believe, right, blue is left. It might be the other way around. It's not that important. We could take the pitch up. This is also how a lot of those big dancey house things are, is you get a whole bunch of variations on this and you layer them all together. So you get like 3 or 4 harmlesses, layer them together, and you'll get a really cool big lead thing that you hear in typical dance, like uplifting trance, maybe not uplifting trance, but you know what I'm talking about, like the really popular EDM. I do not know what to call it. Big room? I don't know. This could definitely be used in big room as well, though. So that is what these do. Now, phase, if we were to, now we have our pitch variation. And if we move the phase up and down, it will change the start of each one of those individuals. So we have 9 right now. It will change each one of these will start at a different phase. If you don't know what phase is, let's open up a Massive real quick. So an LFO, so this right here is a sine wave. And this is the starting point. We'd call this the phase, right? This is the phase that it's at. And if we were to change it, we've changed the phase. We've changed where it starts. We move it over now. It starts here. It starts here. It starts here. Well, what we are doing with Harmless is we are telling that to do it individually for each voice. And what's interesting is if we go back to our massive, you see we have two sine waves right here. If you have one peaking while the other one's peaking and they're peaking in opposite directions, opposite amplitudes, you will get cancellation and you will not hear your sound anymore. So things like that begin to happen, but you got to remember some things are moving at a much faster frequency than others. So the phase cancellation isn't as dramatic. Instead, it creates more of a textural change, especially because it's happening so fast in the upper ends. So if we turn our phase up, you'll just get a variety of sounds. It's really interesting. And so let's take a look at that. And you see when our phase is no change in phase, it comes, you can hear the beginning click real clearly because it's just, it's all lined up. So all the amplitudes line up so you get that immediate click at the very beginning. And up here you get a lot more cancellation. As a result, our sound starts to smooth out. So that's all great and dandy. So what does this last one do? Because if you move this one up and down, like nothing's happening. It's very confusing at first. So this is what it's doing. If you turn your phaser on, which we haven't talked about this yet, but we will at length, you'll notice that, let's go to a spectrum analyzer. We have talked about phasers a little bit over here. This phaser's a bit different. You have a lot more settings and things to mess with, but you can see these different notches right here where the frequencies are sort of taken out. And they move around. That's another thing that this phaser is particular for, is it moves around and behaves differently. But this variation will change it so that you'll see the, we're going to turn our panning up so we can see our voices individually. As in, we'll see the two channels, green and blue, and you'll see that some of them move and they're offset. They variate from the phaser's movement. So they'll move into these holes, but they're still being phased too, but their phase is where these guys are. So it'll sort of cover up the holes in our phaser, but it'll create a really interesting texture because you'll get a double phase texture going on. So let's just really quick look at that. So right now we have this, and if we move it over, you see it starts to fill up. But as we move it back down, it pretty much lines up with our original holes. And so if we go down to two voices, it's very apparent. As you can see, it moves right on over. And there's only two voices. So one has to go out the left and one has to go out the right. And that's why it's green and blue. And this is what our Unison does. Now, you can make this velocity sensitive for the pitch. If we go turn up our voice count and turn the pitch up, and if we turn the velocity sensitivity off for the amp so we can hear it easier, as you can see, the pitch changes with velocity touch. Pretty cool. So let's really quick just make a sound utilizing this. We'll make a big lead thing, right? And we're going to take the phaser off. So we're going to be talking about the phaser next, so that should be cool. So that'll be our first sound, and let's make some sort of a chord progression. We'll just do a fifth. And we'll do something like this. Oh, and this is not dance tempo. Let's go up to like there. We'll go down one. So I have some drum loops that will fit nicely right there. And then we'll do an F major chord. Oh, you know what? We need to stay in our octave thing. That would be smart. And then we'll do an E. And then we'll go down to B. So this will go to G. This will go to B. And this will go to G. Alright, it's not the best chord progression in the world. Like, granted, there's a lot that could change there. But we're just demonstrating a concept. Now turn the reverb on, because these things are always drenched in reverb. And we've already got something, but we want a bass. And I like to make my basses actually separate, but we could add in the bass on it if we really wanted to. But I bet we can make a much more dynamic bass using the Unison setting separately. So add another Harmless. And we have this. And you might not want everything at 9. Usually 4 will do the job. And the idea is that our bass is much more together. And what the heck, we'll even use that. And we'll turn our sub on. And we'll add that guy in. If you don't know how to do this part, go watch my video tutorial series, How to Make Your First Song in FL Studios. Copy this, paste this. All right. Now delete all this stuff. So all we have is the bass. And select the bass, bring it down on several octaves. We're starting on a C, right? Yeah. And I'm not following the chord movement. It's going to F. And we're going to E. Okay, this chord progression is like just bad, but whatever. And we need another backup, so we'll clone this guy. And we'll change the graph thing. And this one will be more texture. We'll have more of our original pitch in there. And we should really send these things to be mixed. This is another big thing with stuff like this. It needs to be mixed. This thing has no reverb on it. Drench it in reverb. It's like the rule. And now I think this thing could use a healthy amount of distortion with our wave shaper. Alright, let's change the chords just for the sake of changing chords. And when you have something like this going on, that you could be like, holy crap, how are you going to change anything? Because that's just a lot of work. Well, you just change one and you move from there. So let's make it C major, C minor. We'll keep the same rhythm though. And C minor, we even keep them in the root positions. Then we'll go to F. So we go to A, C, yeah, we'll go to F, then we'll go to G, which I'm gonna hop up. What the heck? We're gonna be ascending. B, T. No, we don't want to go to G. Let's go to. Maybe we do. I don't know. Yeah, what the heck? Let's see. That's pretty cool. It's better than what I had before. And we're in our bass now. Delete, 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 drag down. And this is moving on a C though. Cool. And then the last part is we need some drums. And so I happen to have some of those handy. Drums. Full loops. What the heck, you know? There you have it. That's how you make something like that. I mean, you have the idea to mess around with the timbres and things and just, you know, kind of shape whatever you want to do. But if you enjoy these videos, subscribe. Let me know what you think down in the comments and have a blessed day.